and to especially thank Peter Smith and Pastor Ken Brownlow. I would like, first and foremost, Adnan on my left to briefly introduce himself if he can, and then after the short introduction, I would ask Alan Craig to do so also. Adnan Rashid.
Thank you, Hamza. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending today's debate. I am Adnan Rashid. I am a member of Hekteen Institute, which is an Islamic think tank. This think tank is working towards raising better understanding about Islam, encouraging dialogues and debates among the Muslims and the non-Muslims, even if they are from Jewish background, atheistic background, or any background for that matter. The purpose of this institute is to raise awareness about Islam and its principles and how it manifests itself in a society, so that the people who don't understand Islam completely, they get to know Islam so that they can better appreciate Muslims living in Britain. This is the job we're trying to do with our institute. And I'm very pleased to be here. I'm studying history at University of London, and I'm a khatib, I'm an orator for Muslims, giving sermons every Friday in a mosque. And I am an active speaker, giving speeches and presentations in many universities in this country. So I like doing what I'm doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adnan Rashid. I think before I hand it over to Alan Craig, I need to introduce myself. My name is Hamza Andreas Georges, and I'm your chair for today. I'm going to be the intellectual police. I'm going to be the glue that keeps everyone together today. I'm going to be the objective chairman. So that's my role for today, and hopefully we'll enjoy each other's company. Now, Councillor Alan Craig, please introduce yourself if you can.
Thank you very much. As you heard, my name is Alan Craig, Councillor Alan Craig. I'm a councillor in the next door borough of Newham. I live with my wife Sally, who's over here tonight, just over in the corner there. We live just down the road in Forest Gate. My passion is Jesus Christ. My political passion is to hold up Christ and Christian values and Christian principles in public life, believing that our society is declining, our society is decaying. Why? Because our society, its public life, has turned its back on Christ. And the more it turns its back on Christ, the more it will decline and the more it will decay. I'm delighted to be here tonight. I've got to know Adnan a bit over time. We have once before debated down at my park corner. I've gained a certain amount of notoriety in the Muslim community because I have objected to the proposed building of a large mega mosque just down the road at West Ham. And Adnan and I had the pleasure of debating that mosque once down at Hyde Park Corner. But I'm looking forward to tonight, so I'm looking forward to that, Adnan, and I hope it will be a good debate. Well, it really is a great pleasure to be here tonight and to debate this topic. It's a fascinating topic, it's an important topic, and as we know, it's a topic about the future of our society. So I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to be debating with Adnan. As I said before, he and I have debated once before about a specific issue, a specific project, but tonight we're going to talk about society as a whole. We're going to talk about British society, and we're going to talk about the application of Islam on his behalf, and Christianity on my side. Now, perhaps I ought to say that I'm slightly wary about having a debate like this. Debates are a good thing, iron sharpens iron, each side exposes the other side's arguments, exposes the weakness and proclaims the strength of their own side. But the very nature of a debate like this inevitably is to a certain extent competitive. It is to a certain extent oppositional. That I will oppose Adnan and the Islam he proposes, and he will oppose me and the Christianity that I oppose. But I would like to say that this needs to be done respectfully. I would like to say right at the beginning that not only do I respect Muslims, I love Muslims. I have no problem with Muslims. I have a real respect for some of the Muslims stand for in our society. I heard not so long ago that it's just rumour, it's not provable. By the nature of it, it's not provable, but I understand that the National Health Service, the primary care trusts, do not accept and do not want more than 10% of Muslims in any hospital or other medical centre. Why? Because Muslims take a very firm, clear stand on issues of abortion. Now, I personally think such discrimination against Muslims is appalling. But I want the Muslims to know I'm on their side. Well done, the Muslims. If they're taking a clear stand against abortion, I'm right with you. And I admire you for that, like I admire, I'm not a Catholic, but I admire Catholics for that too. And another example, I'll just give you one, as to the way I admire Muslims, is I live in Forest Gate, and not so long ago, in the middle of August, it was Pakistan Independence Day celebrations. And the local police closed Green Street, which is right in the centre of a Muslim area. They closed Green Street in order there could be a street party to celebrate Pakistan Independence Day. And Sally, my wife, and the children, we went down there to join in the celebration, to join the party. Lots of young people about. It was extremely noisy, ear-splittingly noisy, with all the hooters and the noise and cheering that was going on. But I didn't see one drunk person anywhere. If they'd been English, there'd be young people all over the place who had far too much to drink. So I want to say right at the beginning, before we get into the opposition and to the contest and the confrontation of one another, I respect Muslims, I love them as my neighbours, and I have no problem at all. In many aspects of what they do and what they say, I respect. So please hear my heart on that. But now we need to turn into the debate tonight. So I want to start, if I can, by reading a bit from the New Testament. Just a few verses I want to read, because this is right at the centre of it all, at least as far as I'm concerned. No two ways about it. Can you hear me all right? This is what I would like to read. A few verses from the New Testament. It's taken from Matthew. It's taken from Matthew 27. And this, I believe, is at the heart and the root of all things. This is the root and foundational fact and truth upon which all other things stand. It's about 12 verses. Let me just read it to you. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall. But after tasting it, he refused to drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots. And sitting down, they kept watch over him there, and above his head they placed a written charge against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. 2 robbers were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross, if you are the Son of God." In the same way the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him. "He saved others," they said, "but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now, if he wants him. For he said," Jesus said, "I am the Son of God." In the same way the robbers who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. From the 6th hour until the 9th hour, darkness came over all the land, deep darkness. And about the 9th hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling on Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a stick, and offered it to Jesus to drink. But the rest said, "Leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. Now, what I propose to talk about tonight in the time that's left to me, the 20-25 minutes that's left to me, that is right at the core of the whole thing. That is right at the centre. The death of the Son of God on the cross. That is the root truth upon which all other truths are built. That is the root truth upon which our society needs to be built. And as time goes on and as the evening goes on, I hope to show you how and why. But what are we talking about tonight? The topic tonight is about Islam Christianity. And I want to tell you two stories which will illustrate where I'm coming from. Two stories that will indicate to you what I think about what Adnan will be proposing. Two true stories about two individuals, one of whom some of you may know when I'm going to name him, but the other one I don't think you will. Now the first one, whom I don't think you will know, I'm going to call him Abdullah. Okay? Abdullah. He is an English convert to Islam. Aged, I would think, about 40. He has taken a Muslim name. It isn't Abdullah, but it doesn't matter. He's fairly senior in the Muslim world. He's fairly senior, actually, down at the East London Mosque, just down in Whitechapel, just down the road here. He's fairly senior. And he happened to live near me. And I got to know him quite well. I used to go around his house, where he lived, around his house. I never met his wife, because whenever I went round there, his wife went upstairs, so I never met her at all. But I believe that she was Moroccan, and I think his conversion had to do with his marriage to his Moroccan wife. When I went round, we went to a very quiet, studious sort of guy. I really liked him and respected him. One day, I was going out with my wife Sally. We were walking across this nearby station like that, and this guy, Abdullah, is that what I call him, Abdullah? Abdullah, whatever. Anyway, he was coming towards us, whatever name I gave him. He was coming towards us, walking towards us, and he saw me. He walked over. My wife had never met him. He walked over and started talking to me. To 2 minutes, perhaps, or something like that, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, we talked. Not once did he acknowledge Sally, look at Sally, have anything whatever to do with Sally. In fact, as I look back on it now, I regret the fact that I didn't deliberately introduce him and insist that he did. But of course, what he was doing was he was following what he understood as his Islamic approach to women. We know that Islam has a problem. At least Muslim men have a problem about women. And here he was working like he would not look at her. Presumably he thought if he did, he'd be lusting on her. He did not have anything to do, did not acknowledge her. Now my point to you is this guy is a normal English guy, brought up middle class, intelligent, brought up in English, and then converted to Islam. And I say to myself, what on earth is this about? Let me give you another example. I can name this one because you can find out for yourself. He's a guy called Paul Williams, another English convert to Islam. Some of you will know him. He's involved with something called the Muslim Debate Initiative. Nice guy, really nice guy, same sort of age, similarly quiet, similarly well-mannered, and so on. Now if you go, he's got a blog site. If you go to his blog site is called Exploring Life, the Universe, and Everything. And if you go to his Paul's blog site, and you go to August the 14th, you'll see he's written something up there. Now this is an English guy, brought up in this country, okay, and quite freely converted to Islam. And this intelligent, normal sort of guy who's converted to Islam has a blog post up there. It's entitled, Should Apostates Be Executed? Should apostates be executed? I've been mulling over this issue recently, says Paul, and although I'm no scholar, I would like to outline arguments for and against executing apostates in an attempt to clarify some of the arguments there. Ladies and gentlemen, what on earth has happened to these guys? What's got inside their brains? They've got a handle, have they not? One of them will not talk to my wife, will not acknowledge my wife, is actually downright rude to my wife, and he knows it because he's born in this country. And the other one is now talking about, is it right or wrong to execute apostates? What has happened to these guys? Islam has got inside their brains, has got inside them, and this is what's happened. And what I want to propose to you tonight is that is one of the problems with Islam. That is a good illustration as why we don't need Islam as central in our society here. Now, how do we approach this topic tonight? How am I going to approach this topic tonight? Now, I've no doubt, I've looked at Adnan's website, the Hitton Institute, good website, government website, and so on. And I've no doubt that what we could do is we could spend a lot of time tonight in what I would call a tit-for-tat argument. You see, there's 2,000 years of Christian history, and there's 1,400 years of Islamic history. And you will know, and I will know, there are many aspects of that Christian history, and I'm sure many Muslims will say there are many aspects of that Islamic history that are not particularly attractive. They're unattractive. So we could go through, couldn't we? Now, we could spend our time, Adnan and I, either tonight, we spend our time in a tit-for-tat. No doubt Adnan could, if he wanted to, he'd go on about the Crusades. Okay? He could talk about the Crusades. And he would criticise the Crusades, and I probably would have quite a lot of agreement with him on the Crusades, actually, although there's a valid response to the Islamic imperialism in the Middle East. I think it's a valid response. But I could have quite a lot to say about the Crusades. And of course, I could look at the Islamic aggression and antagonism towards Europe. which was only in the end of time, was only stopped at the gates of Vienna in 1683. He no doubt could talk about the wonderful golden Ottoman Empire, the golden period of the Ottoman Empire. And I could talk about the Armenian genocide in 1915 or around that sort of time, when between 500,000 and 1.5 million Armenians were slaughtered by the Turks, by the Ottoman Empire. He perhaps, looking at his website, perhaps may want to talk about the wonders of Islamic Spain. And I can talk about the slaughter of the Christians and others in Spain when the Muslims, when it was an Islamic-run society. And so we accept that, if I'm honest, I don't propose to do that tonight. I think it won't get us very far. He will have his points, I will have my points, and you can pay your money and take your choice. What I think we can do, and what I propose to do, is to go right back to the foundations and look at the foundations. What I propose to do is to look at the life of Jesus, and I look at the New Testament, and the years of the New Testament, and draw what I want to look at tonight from that. It will be agreed, and that's where we're going back to the foundation. And simply we go back to that Muhammad, the Sunnah of Muhammad, the acts and sayings of Muhammad as represented in the Hadith. We can talk about the Quran and perhaps talk about the first four caliphs. That original golden period of Islam, which Muslims would all agree is a golden period. We go back to the foundation and we're looking actually at what Christianity has to offer in Jesus Christ and what Islam has to offer from Islam's prophet Muhammad. And that's what I propose to do. And what I propose to do is I want to look at three key areas which I think are really important, will draw the distinctions between Islam and Christianity. And the first one I want to look at is the area of the fact that in the Christian era, the New Testament era, was an era when we could say, as Christians, we're no longer under law, but under grace. No longer under law, but under grace. Those of you here who are Christians, who know the New Testament, you know a lot of Jesus' problems with the petty bureaucratic rules, the Sabbath rules, the Sabbath regulations, the Sabbath laws of the Jewish establishment in Jerusalem and in Israel at this time. And those tremendous 10 commandments of Moses have been added to and built up over many centuries until Judaism at Jesus' time was completely taken over by these small and petty rules and regulations. How many steps you could take on the Sabbath, whether you rescue your animal from the ditch on the Sabbath, and so on and so forth, how often you should pray, what sort of tithing you should do, how you should do your tithing. That's what was there. The whole of society was under the law, under the regulations. It was crushing, it was constraining, it was knocking the life out of society. And remember, some of you that know the New Testament, Jesus really laid into the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, hypocrites he called them, hypocrites time after time, laid burdens on the ordinary people, burdens of rules and regulations and so on. And although they found themselves controlled and constrained and kept down by those rules and regulations. Interesting enough, I was just looking around and it still seems to be a debate I looked on a Jewish website recently, and I know we're not really looking at Judaism at all. This is quite a good illustration. Muslims will understand this when the ordinary members of the public, in this case a Jewish person, goes to, in their case, the rabbi and asks them their views, and they get a ruling from the rabbi as to what they should do. And the question that the rabbi was asked is, why does the Jewish religion seem to obsess over insignificant details? This is a Jew asking the question, just recently. I've got a date on it somewhere, within the last year, I got it off the website. How much mazda do we have to eat? Which spoon did I use for milk and which for meat? Which is the right way to tie my shoelaces? It seems to me this is the bigger picture, but focusing on minutiae. Is this nitpicking what we Jews call spirituality? So that's the question. It's going around now, even in Judaism now. And that's what it was 2,000 years ago. And then, along comes Jesus. Along comes Jesus with the gospel of Christ, this fantastic gospel of Christ. No longer, he says, are you under law, but you're under grace. Paul's expression, that's what it is. Suddenly the freedoms and the liberty of the gospel come. It is no longer about rules and regulations, it's about relationship. It's about the heart. It's about how you are with God, how you are with the Lord himself. It's not about how many times a day you go to the synagogue to pray. It's not about how much money you pay every Sabbath day as your tithe. It's not about all these petty rules and regulations and how you tie your shoelaces. No, that's outward. That's external. It's got nothing whatever to do with that, said Jesus. It is all about your relationship with God. And I have come in order to open the door to you, to take your sins, to deal with your rebellion, to deal with your selfishness, and open the door so that you can have an open relationship with God. You can stand in front of God, boldly before the throne of grace, and speak to God because he's your maker and because you have been forgiven. What glory, how fantastic that was. What a story. No wonder it spread like wildfire, not by the sword, not by intimidation. It spread only by the word preached and by the miracles done by the early disciples. And in 300 years it spread, not as fast as Islam later spread, but it spread in 300 years, not by intimidation, not by force, not by taking over towns and cities and so on, but by people gossiping the gospel and people coming into this glorious freedom of the gospel of Christ. And then, ladies and gentlemen, 600 years later, slam, bam, done, we're back under law again. Along comes Muhammad, and what does he offer? He offers law again, Sharia law, and we're back under the rules and the regulations. That's what they're offering to you and to me. That's what Adnan will have to offer to you. If he follows his own prophet, if he follows his own Quran, if he follows his own Sharia law, he will be offering you the rules and regulations. I can't believe it, if I'm honest. I hope you don't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I once had one website. It was actually a Saudi website. And it was all these detailed rules and regulations about how you should behave and what you should do and when you should do this. And I came across this. This is a senior Muslim sheikh in Saudi. And he was telling people, I'm sorry, excuse me ladies, this is a bit delicate, okay? He was telling men how they should hold themselves when they go to the toilet. How they should hold themselves, the number of fingers they should use. Do you believe that? I'm telling you this up there. I can't believe this. I simply don't believe this. This isn't true. Until actually, I go back to the hadith. I go back to Bukhari's hadith. And Bukhari, for those that don't know, is one of the more reliable ones. And apparently, Allah's apostle said, when you drink water, do not breathe in the vessel. And when you urinate, he's talking to men, of course, do not touch your private parts with your right hand, and when you cleanse yourself after defecation, do not use your right hand. Ladies and gentlemen, I simply do not believe we can say this is what religion is about. I simply do not believe that you will accept that this is what a religion is about. Religion is not about rules and regulations, how you go to the toilet, how you go to the synagogue, how often you go to the mosque or the church or whatever. Religion, surely, true spiritual religion, is about the relationship between you and your Maker. And Jesus has opened the way. We're not under law, we're under grace. And we don't need 600 years later for Sharia law to come and push us down, to control us, to crush us, to constrain us, to tell us how many times we should pray, when we should pray, how often we go to the mosque and so on. No. That's not what it's about. So that's my first point. My first point, we're not under law, but we're under grace. And that's the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ. And that is what as I shall show in a few minutes' time, I've got the time, I'm going to watch how long do I have? 6 minutes. Whoa! Yeah, I'm getting enthusiastic on my point. I've got 2 more points. I want to talk about very, very rapidly, before I turn actually to applying this directly, and I'm going to try and squeeze all this into 6 minutes. 6 minutes, okay. I want to talk about equality. The New Testament makes it absolutely clear that all people are equal in the sight of God. All people are created in the image of God. That's an Old Testament concept. But those of you who know your New Testament will know we're talking about the priesthood of all believers. We're all equal before God. We all have the same worth. As the New Testament says, and Paul says, neither Jew nor Greek, neither slave nor free, neither male nor female, we're all one in Christ. Absolutely level. There is no one, be you both the most intelligent person or be a young child. Actually, as Christianity is Muslim, even if you're still in the womb, we are all equal in the sight of God. Absolute equality. Islam cannot and does not offer you equality. Sharia law does not offer you equality. How do I know that? Absolutely, completely proven to you. If you're a Muslim man, following on from your own prophet, if you're a Muslim man, you are allowed to have 4 wives. You may choose to, and I don't actually know many Muslims do. Most of the unprofessional Muslims I know just have 1 wife. And perhaps that's, well, for whatever reason. 5 minutes, okay, I'll try and squeeze it all in here. 1 man can have 4 wives. Now, if Islam believes in equality, presumably 1 wife can have 4 husbands, but you know what? You can't. I could go on, I'm going to constrain it, but right there, right in the heart of things, when we talk about marriage, when we're looking at the life of Muhammad himself, the sheer inequality between men and women that's in Islam is therefore to see. There's no getting around it. They can't argue it. They can't explain why it is that one man can have 4 wives, but a one wife can't have 4 husbands, except that Muslim men are superior to Muslim women. They're also superior to Islam. They're also superior to non-Muslim men, and I don't know where non-Muslim women come. They're right down the scale, right down there somewhere. I need to move on. I'm sorry if I'm going to cut these. I want to argue that a bit more. But can we just come on to my last point? Last bit about this. The other thing that Christianity offers, and all these things that people offer to society, I'm going to try and tie all this up in a moment. Forgiveness. That story about Jesus there, hanging on the cross, the very Son of God himself, nailed to the cross and murdered by his own creation because he made those people hanging there, that is all about forgiveness. That you and I can have direct access to heaven. We can stand boldly before the throne of grace. We don't have to cower before God. He's not a vengeful, hateful God that's going to batter us into the ground. No, we stand there before him, knowing we stand forgiven. They're absolutely central to Christianity. Forgiveness, forgiveness. 70 times 7, Jesus said, is the number of times you have forgiven people. When Peter, the Apostle Peter, came to him and said, how often should I forgive somebody who sins against me? 7 times? He said, no, said Jesus, 70 times 7. Literally, what's he saying? You carry on forgiving, you carry on forgiving. That's what you do. Turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek. Jesus' concept. Turn the other cheek. You see, this forgiveness isn't something weak and wimpy. Isn't something actually only people who have any moral strength forgive because they haven't got the strength to go up front the person that's sinning against them and is doing it. No. It takes immense moral strength, moral fibre to say, no, I forgive you. And yet, do we find that in Islam at all? Muhammad, in his life, there were various people that had insulted him, various people that upset him. There was one particular woman who did that. She was a poetess. And I'll see if I can find my papers on it. She was a poetess there. And her name was Asma bint Marwan. Muslims will know about her. She was a poetess. Let me just read this from a Muslim website, okay? Asma bint Marwan wrote a poem against Muhammad, insulting him. On hearing the poem, Muhammad decided to have her executed. So he got a guy called Umar ibn Adi came to her. He said he would go and kill her. Umar ibn Adi came to her in the night and entered her house. Her children were sleeping around her. There was one of her children she was suckling. He, that's Umar, searched for her with his hand because he was blind and separated the child from her. He thrust his sword in her chest until it pierced her up to her back. He offered the morning prayers with the prophet of Al-Adina, Muhammad. And the Prophet Allah said to him, have you slain the daughter of Marwan? He said, yes. Is there something more for me to do? So this woman, this poetess, had insulted Muhammad. Did he turn the other cheek? No. He had her slaughtered. I can say no more. I'd like to say more about it, but I can say no more now. But you see the situation. So I've talked about being under grace. I've talked about equality. And I've talked about forgiveness. These are key values which society needs more than ever. How do I have that 1 minute? Britain is, we all know it, Britain is declining, whether you look at it in terms of greed, whatever reason, we are declining. We're declining in our vitality, we're an old and a tired society. We're actually a very selfish and materialistic society. Our booze culture is growing, our teenage pregnancies are growing. Now what you will find is what the question of that is, what is the solution? And hopefully more of this will come out through our discussion. Islam will offer you rules and regulations. Islam will tell you, under most extreme circumstances, if you perform certain sins, do certain things wrong, you'll have your arms or legs cut off. It's all about rules and regulations. It's all about harshness and judgment. It's all fixed in the law, the Sharia law of Islam. But what Christianity offers, and what Christianity offers to you personally and to our society, and our society, as its cost has turned its back on Christianity, is it offers Jesus Christ and all that goes with it. It offers all these values I've talked about, and there'll be many more, I'm sure, as they even go out. That all people are equal in the sight of God, even the unborn. That actually we live in grace, we can have confidence before God. With before God all our creativity and our own energy and all our initiative, all our desire to go forward, to progress, is okay before God. We can take risks because if we go wrong, we can be forgiven. a flexible society, and a vital society, a live society. And lastly, we offer the society that is flexible because it has this forgiveness of the heart. I'm sorry to be quiet, I'm going to talk for another hour about the whole thing, but perhaps more will come out as we discuss as the evening goes on. Thank you all very much for your time.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. In the name of God, the merciful, compassionate, the God of Moses, the God of Jesus, the God of Muhammad, all of whom upheld the law of this God, which is comprehensive in its solutions. Alan has presented a case in his 26 minutes. And I was quite surprised to hear Alan's case. The reason why, the topic of today's debate, and in a debate you disagree. The reason two parties come together to share ideas in a debate is that they are both disagreeing on issues. The reason me and Alan came here today, with due respect, is because we both disagree. Alan has a case for Christianity, I have a case for Islam. The title we agreed upon was Islam or Christianity, which one provides comprehensive solutions for the British society. Now in Alan's 25 minutes or 26 minutes presentation, Alan did not address the issue at all. Now the topic tells us that we are both assuming that there are problems with the British society. There are severe problems with the British society. For this reason we came together today in order to discuss these problems and, most importantly, their solutions. Christianity, I am very sure Christianity has a beautiful principle. In the Bible we have verses, amazing verses. Some of the principles are amazing. I'm fascinated by them. Some of the teachings of Jesus. Love your enemy. Do not hate your persecutor. Turn the other cheek. Love your wife. All these teachings are there. But ladies and gentlemen, these are values. And values are not solutions. Values are values. And they are common. We have many teachings of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ which tell us how to treat your wife, to be kind with her. In chapter 4 of the Quran, verse number 19, God Almighty tells us, oh, you believe, do not inherit women against their will, and be kind to them. Live with them with kindness. It's a value. It doesn't give a solution. So values are common. I agree with all the things Alan said, apart from criticizing Sharia law, because Sharia law is a phenomenon which I can say with confidence that Alan hasn't studied comprehensively. So Alan did not address the problems to do with Britain. Alan insisted to add the word Britain in the title of this debate because we want to talk about Britain. And I was quite surprised not to hear anything about Britain at all. Rather, it was seeing problems with Islam. Now, Alan talked about apostasy. Before I talk about apostasy, I would like to express myself that I love Christians too. I have nothing against Christians. I have good feelings for Christians. I have Christian friends. And I like to address many issues with them. I like to speak to them. I like to share values with them. Some of the Christian people I've met, they've been amazing people. Amazing personalities. And they've inspired me, some of them. So, me and Alan are equally for that principle. Apostasy is not a problem of Britain. Apostasy may have been a problem of Islam. And at the same time, when we read the history of Islam, we come to realize how many cases of apostasy do we have. Would Alan like to enlighten us on that? That is one point I would like Alan to comment on. We are no longer under the law. This is exactly what the problem is. Alan said, we are no longer under the law. This is exactly what the problem is. The law gives you a comprehensive solution for your problems. And Alan is actually acknowledging, saying that we are no longer under the law. The Christians are no longer under the law. How many fingers for ablution or washing yourself or do not breathe in a cup? These are comprehensive solutions from Islam. This is exactly what I'm here to debate today. When Prophet told us, do not breathe in your pot when you're drinking from it, that means do not breathe your germs in it so that the next person comes and drinks from it and he gets ill as well. We know that today, that if an ill person, a person who has temperature, if he drinks water from a glass, someone else comes and takes water from the same glass, there is a high possibility of him catching the same fever. These are comprehensive solutions given by our Prophet to us 14 centuries ago. And Alan has problem with that. 4 wives. In fact, having 4 wives, polygamy, is a solution for the British society, and I'll come to address that in a minute. It is not a problem for Britain. As for the poetess, Alan states that she was killed because she criticized the Prophet of Islam. I asked Alan whether he has actually read the poetry of Asma. Have you, Alan?
No.
Alan hasn't read the poetry of Asma. So I assume that Alan doesn't know what Asma was actually saying about Muhammad. She was in fact inciting violence against Muhammad. She was inciting Jewish men to go and kill Muhammad. Now we have today preemptive strikes taking place in some of the Muslim countries. When the Americans realize some terrorists are taking shelter in a place, they go and bomb the place and kill the women and children with the terrorists. And it's understandable. The terrorists are there, the barbarians are there, they must be killed. Preemptive strikes. So if Muhammad, having a state, as a leader of a state, did something like that, what is wrong with that? Then if we condemn Muhammad, we must condemn American government too, to be fair. Coming to my topic of today. Islam or Christianity, which one provides comprehensive solutions for the British society? I will take a legal stance on this topic. I will address the topic rather than making rhetorical statements, which we all aware of. Christianity is this, Christianity is that, Islam is this, Islam is that. We hear that all the time. Let's get legal with the sources. This is what we're here for. The debate is about the solutions, not the problems. We all know the problems. We are here to discuss the solutions. So, firstly, ladies and gentlemen, I will cover some of the problems of Britain. What is British society going through today? Then we will discuss what comprehensive solutions are there from Christianity for these problems. Then we will discuss what Islam has to offer for these problems as solutions. Then we will see whether Islam has ever done anything for Britain in the past or not. Then we will see Christianity's thousands of years, or at least 1,500 years, history of governing Britain. What result Christianity has reaped for these islands, the British Islands. Problems of Britain. Rape. 167 women are raped every day in the UK. 46,000 rapes every year. A woman is being raped right now as I speak to you on this tiny island. A woman might be raped 5 minutes later. And another 5 minutes later, another woman might be raped, according to the statistics taken from Amnesty International website. Mail Online on 21st of September 2009 reported that police forces are failing to record 40% of rape claims. 40% of rape claims go unrecorded. Domestic violence, another problem in Britain. Domestic violence accounts for nearly a quarter of all recorded violent crimes in England and Wales. 1 in 4 women will be victim of domestic violence in their lifetime in Britain. On average, 2 women per week are killed by a partner or by an ex-partner. 74% of men will report a dog being beaten to the RSPCA or police, but only 53% would report domestic violence to the police. On average, a woman is assaulted 35 times before her first call to the police. 1 woman in 9 is severely beaten. 1 woman in 9 is severely beaten by her male partner each year. This is Britain. A Home Office report from 2002 found domestic violence to have a higher rate of repeat victimization than any other crime in this country. A problem, and we require solutions. Crime. 2.1 million violent incidents were reported during 2007 and 2008 against adults in England and Wales. 2.1 million violent crimes in this country. Mr. Justice Coleridge, a family division judge for England and Wales, comments on social and family breakdown, describing it as a never-ending carnival of human misery, a ceaseless river of human distress. This is only comments on the British society's problem when it comes to crime. Then we have another problem, high taxes. We pay road tax, £200 a year for our car. We pay income tax, some of us are paying over 40%, depending on how much we earn. We pay fuel tax, which is over 70%. We pay council tax, which is £1,500 on average for a property. We pay value-added tax on the things we buy from the market, 15% on average. High taxes. What are the Christian solutions? And we will come to see what the Christian solutions are. Unfair divorce laws in this country. Michelle Young, a model who is married to a millionaire, is seeking divorce from her husband. So reported Mail on the 15th of this month, 2009, that she is suing her husband for £400 million, even though the money doesn't belong to her. Unfair divorce laws. What are the Christian solutions? Single mothers. We have millions of single mothers in this country, dumped with their kids by their partners or by their husbands. What are the solutions for them? What does Christianity provide for them? Atheism, in brackets, godlessness, is another problem in this country, and I would agree on that. Atheism, godlessness, promotes selfishness, which promotes, subsequently, other problems in the society. What does Christianity give for the atheists? So, this is happening because of one reason, which I come to understand as the reason of this chaos which we are witnessing in Britain today. This is because of the political failure. The system which is in implementation right now in this country is seriously failing somehow. This is why we have 46,000 rapes. This is why we have 2.1 million violent crimes reported. This is why we have so many women being abused domestically. This is why we have so many higher taxes. So what are the Christian models, political models, which the Christians would propose biblically? Now, I'm not here to discuss what the Catholics believe about the law, or what the Protestants say about the law, or what the Methodists or the Seventh-day Adventists they have to say about the law. I am not here to discuss that. One thing I'm sure about is that all the Christians on the face of the earth, they agree upon one principle, and that principle is the Bible. They are all tied to the Bible as a way of guiding them in their problems. So Bible is the source they look at when they seek solutions. So we will go to the Bible, what the Bible tells us about the Christian solutions. The first model is the biblical model, which is pre-Enlightenment model, which Calvin failed to establish completely. And that is the biblical Old Testament model, where you kill the apostates, where you burn the witches alive, where you burn the heretics, or where you commit all the atrocities you can imagine under the heavens. Calvin had implemented this. One of the Protestant reformers had implemented this model in Geneva for a short period of time, and he was able to burn one of the most prominent physicians at the time, Michael Servetus, who was burned alive in Geneva in 1553 CE, because he wrote against the doctrine of Trinity. That is one model, which is an option. And why is that model an option? Because Jesus Christ tells us in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 17, think not that I've come to abolish the law. Rather, I've come to fulfill it. And the verses go on that anyone who teaches people to leave the law, even in a minor point, he will be considered least in the kingdom of heaven. And anyone who teaches people to follow this law, he will be considered high in the kingdom of heaven. Until the universe remains, every single point of law will be fulfilled. Is the universe existing today? Yes. Alan would agree with that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debate today. So, universe does exist. Therefore, Jesus is telling us that this law is to be fulfilled until the universe remains. So, Jesus was a strong advocate of the Jewish law. How do we know this? We know this by Jesus upholding one of the laws from the Old Testament when he was debating the Pharisees. In the book of Matthew, chapter 15, verse number 3, we read that Jesus was rebuking the Pharisees for changing the law. Which law? If a son insults his parents, he is to be put to death. And Jesus is rebuking the Pharisees. Why have you changed this law? The law states for you to do this and you are doing otherwise. You are hypocrites. This is what Jesus is saying to the Pharisees. So he is upholding this law. Whether you like it or not, this is the reality. This is the Bible. Jesus never said that this law is flawed. It should not be followed. Rather, he's saying, you Pharisees are not upholding it. You are manipulating and changing it. Therefore, you are hypocrites. Okay. Then we hear Paul tells us the same thing. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16, Paul tells us, all scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. All scripture is wisdom. All scripture is good for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and in righteousness. All scripture. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, what that means? What does a Christian scripture constitute? This, the Bible. Completely. This is all scripture for the Christians, including the Old Testament. Now, in the Old Testament, we have massacres on a massive scale taking place. We have women being burnt alive. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, verse number 14, we are told if a man sleeps with a woman and her sister or mother at the same time, they are all to be burnt alive. In the chapter 21, verse number 9, the book of Leviticus tells us if a woman, not a man, not a son, if a daughter profaneth her father, who is the father? A priest. If a priest's daughter, if she profanes her father, meaning if she commits adultery with someone, she is to be burnt alive. All scripture is good for correctness, for teaching, for rebuking, and for righteousness. All scripture. So this is a model which is a possible model when the Christians take any significant part in the political system in this country. We know this from the history when the Christians were governing this country, or when the Christians were prominent, when the Christian values in inverted comma were being implemented in England, to be more particular. We know about the massacres of religious nature. We know about witches being burnt alive. We know about the heretics being burnt alive. And where was this wisdom being taken from? This wisdom was taken from the Old Testament, where we find that women can be burnt alive, where we find that people can be burnt alive, where we find that people can be killed for apostasy. So all scripture is good for correctness and righteousness. That's what Paul said. So Pauline model is, then Paul comes and he offers another model, which is the post-enlightenment model. We have seen the pre-enlightenment model, which was the biblical Old Testament model, and some of the Christians, depending on their understanding of Christianity, implemented some of the teachings from the Old Testament when they faced problems. For example, the problem of heresy, problem of witchcraft, and all those problems. Now, Pauline model is that we have been released from the law so that we serve in the way of spirit, and in the old way, and we do not serve the old way of the written code. This is Romans 7:6, chapter 7, verse 6. So Paul is telling us the law is dead for us. The law is no longer applicable for the Christians, the Jewish law, to be more particular. So Paul has actually taken away the Christians from a comprehensive model which they had. Whether it was civilized or barbaric, that's another story altogether. That's another issue. But the model was there, a Jewish model, a Jewish law. Paul has actually divorced the Christian from that Jewish comprehensive model of correcting a society. So Paul has left the Christians without any solution. Now, what is the solution of Paul? Paul does give a solution, by the way, a political solution. What do the Christians do when it comes to the political affairs? What do we do when it comes to theft, murder, robbery, rape? Paul tells us, everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. So you must submit to your authorities. Paul doesn't say which authorities. No matter where you are, you must submit to your authorities. So I ask a question. If a good Christian, following the teachings of Paul, was living in Nazi Germany, what is he to do? I want Alan to come back as rebuttal, and I want him to address these issues. Every single point I raise, my premises, they are to do with the topic. They are directly relevant to the topic. And I want Alan to be a gentleman, and I'm sure he is one, to come back and address my premises. My premises are, which have been already given to you. So, please Alan, come back and address my premises when Paul says that you submit to your authorities. If the authorities are oppressive, if they are carrying out atrocities to the Christians, submit. Paul doesn't give us an option. He says, just submit. Just submit and follow the authorities. And do not rebel against them. Do not rebel against them. So Paul has left out that possibility as well. If the Christians see something wrong with an authority, they can't even rebel. So we are left with a Nazi model, a communist model, a socialist model, a Pol Pot model, or a Hiroshima Nagasaki model. We have these atrocities taking place, and the Christians are commanded by Paul to obey. No solutions left, politically. What does Islam tell us about this? Islam tells us, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in the book of Sahih Muslim, the chapter regarding leadership, Prophet Muhammad taught his companions that as long as your rulers govern you with just law, which is the law of God Almighty, you obey Him. But as long as he goes off that track, you do not obey him. In another narration of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that there is no obedience for the creation against the Creator. No obedience. Paul is not telling us that. This is comprehensive. When a government goes wrong, what do you do? What do you do? When a government wants you to massacre 6 million Jews, what do the Christians do? Muslims know what to do, because our Prophet told us, he gave us a comprehensive solution to that. The Christians, what do they do? Please, Alan, would you come back, address this issue? Now, what are the Christian solutions for the rape? For the rape which is taking place in this country. 167 women raped every single day. If we are to accept that all scripture is good for correctness, useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and righteousness, then we must go to the scripture to see what is there as a solution. In scripture we find the book of Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28 to 29. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her, and they are discovered, he shall pay the girl's father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the girl, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives. This is the wise, corrective, righteous model of the scripture. So if a man rapes a woman, what is he to do? He pays the father 50 shekels, and he takes the woman with him, and he never divorces her. So who is punished, the man or the woman? The question is, who is punished in this, the man or the woman? The woman. Woman has nothing to do with this. And she is having to live with a rapist for the rest of her life, and she cannot be divorced. This is the corrective, rebuking, and righteous model of the Old Testament of the Scriptures, which is addressed in 2 Timothy 3:16 by Paul. Now, the modern model, which was proposed by Paul, that obey the authorities, we are doing that right now. We're living in a liberal society. Liberal laws are governing us, and we have 167 rapes a day. So there is a problem. What does Islam have for us? That's the question. Islamic solution for rape. Quran tells us in chapter 24, verse number 4, and those who accuse chaste women and produce not 4 witnesses, flog them with 80 stripes and reject their testimony forever. They indeed are the evildoers. before you even think of raping a woman, even if you point a finger toward a woman and say that she is X, Y, Z, or you try to accuse her of unchastity, then you are to produce 4 witnesses of her unchastity. Meaning, you must produce those people who had a relationship with that woman. If you cannot produce those people, you will be flogged 80 times publicly. And this is how Islam protects the honor of women. Forget about raping. That is out of question. Look at the protection which Islam gives to the woman and her honor. Verily, those who accuse believing chaste women, who never ever even think of anything touching their chastity and are good believers, are accused in this life and in the hereafter, and for them will be a great torment. For those who accuse chaste women of unchastity, there is a great torment for them in this life and in the hereafter. So according to Islamic law, if you accuse a woman of unchastity and do not produce your witnesses, you will have a bag full of lashes. Domestic violence, the Christian solution. Now the Christian solution is, if we go to the scripture, the corrective and the righteous model of the scripture, we find that thou shalt not allow a witch to live. Exodus 22:18. Then in Deuteronomy, we are told, if you notice among the captives a beautiful woman and are attached to her, you may take her as your wife, bring her into your home and make her shave her head off, trim her nails, and put aside the clothes she was wearing when captured. This is the corrective, righteous model of the scripture, which was propagated by Paul. Now, the question I asked from Alan is that, Alan, if you do not condone this righteous model of the scriptures, do you condemn it? And if you do not condemn it, do you accept this model to be righteous, corrective, and a comprehensive model? The rest of my presentation will be covered in my rebuttals, depending on what Alan says in his rebuttal. Thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Thank you very much indeed, Adnan, for your very articulate arguments put forward with a number of challenges to myself. I've got lots of notes down here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer them all. If I don't answer them all, it's because I don't have an answer. They'll come out later. It's because there's quite a lot to get through. Offer to me a number of challenges. I think one of the real problems is Adnan's misunderstanding of the Bible, his misunderstanding of the scriptures. He's absolutely right. He's right, and St. Paul was right when they say all scripture is breathed, God-breathed. So right through verse 1 of Genesis, right through the last verse of Revelation, the whole lot is God-breathed. Okay? It is inspired. But it ain't a rule book. I just bought a new mobile phone. I sort of wish I hadn't. In there it's got a great wodge of things I'm supposed to read through and learn. I have to learn how to make this blooming phone work. My teenage sons understand it far better than I do, but it's all full of guidance and rules and tell me how to make this blooming phone work. That is not what the Bible is. Adam kept quoting from the Old Testament. Let's be clear. The Quran is a bloodthirsty book. Okay? There's no choice, you can't get away from it. The Quran is a bloodthirsty book. You can contextualise it and say that's what Arabia was like in the 7th century, but whatever, the Quran is a bloodthirsty book. It half as bloodthirsty as the Old Testament. Not half as bloodthirsty as the Old Testament. But the whole point of what we've been trying to say tonight, and this is the key thing, but now Jesus has come. We don't live under the Old Testament, and that's okay. It's got to be. But the reason why we read, and I read the Old Testament, is because it points me to Jesus. The whole point and purpose of the law, the whole point and purpose of the Old Testament was to point to Messiah. The Jews' own Messiah, although they don't recognise him, he was coming. And we're now in a new dispensation. We live AD, Anno Domini, after Christ. The big dividing element of the whole of the time universe is actually that crucifixion of Jesus Christ that I read about a moment ago. That's what divides BC before Christ, AD after Christ. BC law, rules, regulations, fighting, war, stoning homosexuals, all that sort of thing we read in the Old Testament. But the whole purpose of the Old Testament is to point forward to the New Testament, to point forward to Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ, he doesn't offer us rules and regulations. regulation. This is what Adnan really doesn't begin to understand. We don't have wooden, mechanical rules and laws and regulations in there. We have a relationship. We have a relationship with God. And because of that relationship, we respond to that. We respond in love to his love. And we follow what we understand to be he would want us to do. Let me give an example. And if you take this example, and I hope you'll take this as an example. This is how it works in Christianity. It ain't wooden application of rules and regulations. If you do this, I'll chop off your hand or your head or whatever it is. Okay? It doesn't work like that. I'm going to embarrass her. I love my wife, okay? I really love my wife, okay? Second to God, I love my wife. She'd be very embarrassed to go beyond. I love my wife, okay? Because I love my wife, because I love in relationship with my wife, do you know what? I don't go after other women. That's why. It's as simple as that. I'm in relationship with my wife. She, I think, has full trust in me. When I go out, I go to a place with all sorts of women. I go meet with Jay and all the girls in his car, wherever I happen to go, with lots of women there. I think she trusts me. I hope she trusts me. Why? Because it's relationship. Now, she could put down all sorts of rules and regulations. And you're not to go anywhere with more than 3 women. And you're not going to do this, you're not going to... She could set down all those rules and regulations, but she doesn't have to. Why? Because I love her. And I want to do what she wants me to do. Okay? It's not difficult. Now, more and more people do that. If actually more and more people are Christians, if more and more people follow Christ, if they want to do what is right by God, actually that begins to impact society. Now, Adnan was quite right when he said I didn't give many solutions to Britain. That's quite right. I didn't have time. I was getting so excited about what I was talking about in Jesus Christ. I do get excited, okay? But what I want to say is, unlike Islam, which will impose on you your rules and regulations, Islam always wants to get the command and control of societies. It always wants to get the government, and then it can impose Sharia law on you. Not Christianity. No. We are bottom up. We work from the bottom. The best historical example, if we are going to get stuck into history, I don't particularly want to, I want to look at the foundations, is actually what happened in our society when the evangelical revival of John Wesley and George Whitefield in the 18th century. That was a superb example. It is recognised by secular historians that John Wesley and George Whitefield, almost alone by God's grace, so changed the atmosphere by so many people becoming Christians and getting into church and following Christ and becoming much more honourable and much more decent and much more loving and caring and community-minded and so on, much more disciplined. Why? Not because of rules and regulations as written down in the Bible, because that was their natural response to their Maker when he was revealed to them in Christ. And so society changed. So that actually secular historians were saying the reason why when the whole of Europe was in flames, the French Revolution in Germany and Italy and elsewhere, it was all in flames and turmoil, Britain just calmly went on. Why? Because they changed, almost single-handedly by God's grace, they changed, bottom up, they changed our society. There was no revolution. 5 minutes, okay? That's the way Christianity works. We don't impose it. We don't impose Christianity, at least we shouldn't, I admit in history, but have on occasions. But actually don't impose Christianity. It works bottom up. It's the salt and light. It's the leaven in society. It changes it. And if there are more and more Christians, there are more and more people who are Christians and love their wives as God wants them to love their wives, actually, the behaviour of the men in our society will begin to change bit by bit. And that's what I mean. Christ is what is needed. Christ, not rules and regulations you can't be going through. Now, what other points did the challenges did Adnan put down to me there? I think the main thing was that. Oh, he said to me, how many cases have there been of apostasy? Let's see, one or two of the guys who had just come in and welcome to you, Abdullah, who's just come over back there. I was quoting your friend Paul Williams earlier and his blog, and I was saying how he got his brains completely scrambled when a nice English guy like him comes out talking about whether we should execute apostates. That's on Paul's blog on the 15th of August this year. How many cases of apostasy? It doesn't matter how many cases of apostasy. The fact is that if a legal system, if a religion can be saying that if you move out of that religion you should be executed, even if it never does it, there's something dramatically wrong with that religion. If it needs to protect itself by saying if you move out of religion, you will be executed. Frankly, there's something wrong with it. That's all I'm saying. So I don't mind whether historically 1 person or 1 million people have been executed for apostatizing out of Islam. It doesn't matter. The principle is written in there, and that's what's wrong with it. So that doesn't matter. Had I read, oh that's right, had I read the poetry of Asma? Have I got time to do with this? Okay. Had I read the poetry of Asma? No, I admitted that I didn't, and I didn't really need to read the poetry of Asma. My point wasn't the nature of poetry. My point was that Muhammad's response to her insult, I don't doubt that she insulted him, probably quite badly, quite horrendously. You see, what we find in Muhammad, he doesn't even do what Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King would argue for. He didn't even do that. No, she's insulted me, maybe horrendous insult, maybe inciting him against me. I'm a religious leader and I'm going to have her killed. Horrendous, absolutely horrendous, with due respect to Muslims. I simply cannot accept that's the right way. As a Christian, I cannot accept that's the right way. There is no forgiveness in there. There is no reaching out in generosity. It is all about these rules and regulations. Now, one last question. Adnan said, I'll finish on this. Adnan said so much that was wrong with our society. To talk about rapes and domestic violence and all sorts of things. Yes, there's a huge amount wrong with our society. But actually, there's a huge amount right with our society. We still have because of our Christian and our Judeo-Christian background, we still have a huge moral capital left. We are running it down very fast. And I hold against Dawkins and all the secularists, I hold against them for doing it. It is running down very fast. But actually, it's still not a bad society in which to live. I understand that Adnan comes from Pakistan. Pakistan has been Islamic for a long time. I actually wonder if we want to compare Pakistan with Britain. There's quite a lot that's right here. You look at our National Health Service, you look at our welfare state, our acts of care and compassion. You, indeed, Adnan, can come from Pakistan, he can go in and he can receive free health care from our National Health Service. There's quite a lot that's right with that as well. Thank you to our Christian heritage and our background, but we're running it down. And unless our society turns back to Christ, and those values and those principles that come from the gospel, that glorious gospel of Christ, that relationship, that open relationship that I'm making, unless our society does, Britain will continue to go down. And in due course we will end up as just as an offshore, backward island off the shore of Europe. Indeed, actually, unless Europe turns back to Christ, Europe will do the same. And everybody else will be China and India and America. If you want to see some life and vitality and progress and so on. I have to say, they won't be looking at Pakistan, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and they won't be looking at the Islamic or the Kingdom of Saudi, the Islamic Kingdom of Saudi, the Islamic Kingdom of Saudi. They won't be looking there. No, they'll be looking elsewhere. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I think you have about 30 seconds left.
I'll take it.
Okay, so now we're going to go for the 10-minute rebuttal on Adnan's side, and then after that, I'm going to announce the break. Adnan, Rashid.
Thank you, Adnan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah wa ba'd. Thank you very much, Adnan, for that passionate rebuttal. Again, passion doesn't provide solutions. Alan hasn't given any solutions to the problems I raised. There is no solution from Christianity as such for the rapes, for the murders, for the crime, for the high taxes, for atheism, for single mothers. There are no comprehensive solutions coming from Christianity for these problems. And the debate title today is, I will remind you again, Islam or Christianity, which one provides comprehensive solutions for the British society? I have already given you some solutions from Islam. I will continue. Before I continue, I would like to address some issues Alan raised. It ain't a rule book. It is Alan. This book is a rule book. You raised the issue of homosexuality, that the liberal values allow them to live in peace. But if you read the Bible, first Romans, Paul is actually telling the Christians that homosexuals deserve to die. Paul is saying this. Do you agree with Paul? Please address this question when you come back. Do you agree with Paul that the homosexuals deserve to die? Would you like to address this question? Second, Quran is a bloodthirsty book. Okay, the US Constitution is a bloodthirsty constitution. The British Constitution is a bloodthirsty constitution. The Dutch Constitution is a bloodthirsty. United Nations charters are bloodthirsty because they have rules of engagement. Quran is a book of law. It's a comprehensive way of life. Quran is not a book which gives us moral and ethics and stops there. No. As I said in the Bible, in the New Testament, we have moral and ethics. Love your neighbor, love your wife, turn the other cheek, love your enemy. Fine, good. Thank you very much. Where are the comprehensive solutions? This is the question. Quran gives us those comprehensive solutions. Quran tells us how to divorce. Quran tells us how to marry. Quran tells us how to pray, how to fast, how to give charity. Quran tells us how do you engage your enemy in war. Quran has rules of engagement for war. So it's a constitution. You cannot condemn a constitution for having a defensive strategy or an offensive strategy. You can't condemn a book for having those laws. Quran is a book of law. So in law you have all these rules. Like you have those rules in the British Constitution. I'm sure British Constitution have rules of engagement. When Britain went to war with Iraq and Afghanistan, there were rules of engagement for the soldiers to follow. Why do you not condemn them? So we have to be consistent in our approach. Islam will be imposed. Sharia law will come and all the Christians will have to submit to it. A misconception. Ladies and gentlemen, under Sharia law, and let me clarify that in no way I am proposing for Sharia law to be imposed in this country. I am not. Muslims are only 2% in this country, and we cannot impose Sharia law in this country. It's impossible, and we do not propose that. What we're doing today is we are offering solutions, comprehensive solutions for the problems we have in this country, and those solutions are to be found in Sharia law. And this is why Lord Philip, he said that there are solutions in this law for us, for our society. There are solutions there. I am saying what Lord Philip said. Lord Philip said. So Islam won't be imposed on people if they are living under Islamic law, because under Islamic law the Christians and the Jews have absolute judicial autonomy. They can govern themselves, they can live as they please, they can have their wine in their houses, they can produce wine, ladies and gentlemen. The Jews have their best din, the Christians have their own courts, they can have big farms if they like in an Islamic land, protected by the Muslims. And these rules are there. These are comprehensive solutions. What solutions are there in Christianity for the minorities? None. So, Martin Luther King you mentioned. What about Martin Luther himself, whom Martin Luther King is named from? Martin Luther, he was against, my friend Jason is smiling, you are an Anabaptist, right? Martin Luther King believed that Anabaptists deserve to die. Okay? I've already made that clear. Pakistan, free healthcare, and these are Christian values. Absolutely not. By the way, first time in the history of mankind when free education was provided, it was provided by the Muslims for general masses. This was the first time in the entire history of mankind, ladies and gentlemen, when education was given free of charge to the masses, Christians, Jews and Muslims all together. Prior to that, the Romans and the Babylonians and the Egyptians and the Greeks, they had a way of educating themselves, but that was for elite alone. Muslims educated the masses. Free healthcare comes from Muslims. Child benefit. Umar bin Khattab, the second caliph of Islam, was the first man to introduce child benefit in the history of mankind. He was the first man to introduce this phenomenon which is being practiced in this country to this day. And I agree, I believe that there are values and practices in the British law which are very Islamic in nature, and some of them have actually been adopted from Islamic law, such as child benefit, free education, paved roads, civilization, free libraries for public. These are Islamic, which Muslims are the ones who introduced this, and I can give you ample amount of evidence which is there on the table, but I don't have time for that, ladies and gentlemen. So I will go back to the solution and the problems. Domestic violence was the problem I was covering. Alan hasn't addressed the issue. One of the solutions for domestic violence is divorce. One of the solutions. If your husband is abusing you, one way you can get rid of him is by divorce. But ladies and gentlemen, guess what? Christianity destroys that option for you. In the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse number 30, we read, 31 to 32, we read, it has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for marital unfaithfulness causes her to become an adulteress. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So a woman cannot be divorced. I repeat, a woman cannot be divorced except for adultery. And if she is divorced, she cannot be remarried. A divorced woman in a Christian society has nowhere to go for her sexual needs. She is not catered for. Islam. And when you divorce women and they have come to the end of their waiting period, stop them not from marrying other men if they have agreed with each other in a fair manner. Surah 2, Quran, verse number 232. Next verse. The divorce is twice. After that, either you retain her on reasonable terms or release her with kindness. And it is not lawful for you, the man, to take back from your wives any of the man, the dowry which you have given them. Surah 2, verse number 229. And the next verse. And when you have divorced women and they have fulfilled the terms of their prescribed period, either take them back on reasonable basis or set them free on reasonable basis. But do not take them back to hurt them. And whoever does that, then he has wronged himself. This is a comprehensive solution for domestic violence in Islam. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You don't have to be abusive to your wife in Islam. Islam makes things very easy for women, which Christianity does not. As I have already stated from the Bible does not allow you to be divorced. Your husband may be a murderer, a rapist, a pedophile. A good Christian cannot be that. I acknowledge that. I agree with that. A good Christian. But do we have bad Christians? We do. And if a bad Christian comes to light, and he has a wife, and his wife wants to leave him, Christianity does not allow him. The New Testament does not allow her to divorce her husband. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, this is a hadith, the tradition of Prophet. The wife of Thabit bin Qais came to the Prophet and said, O Allah's Messenger, O Allah's Apostle, I do not blame Thabit for defects in his character or his religion, but I, being a Muslim, dislike to behave in an un-Islamic manner. In other words, I do not love him. I do not love him. On that, Allah's Messenger said, will you give back the garden which your husband has given you? She said, yes, I will. And then the Prophet said to Thabit, O Thabit, accept your garden and divorce her once. Now in this country we have unfair divorce laws. What are the solutions to the Christian religion? No solution whatsoever. What we have is a ban on divorce. And that is not a solution. That is a problem. Your husband can beat you to death but you cannot divorce him. If that's the case, please agree. If that's the case. If not, you can come back and challenge me on that. Bring something from the Bible which allows a woman to be divorced. And let's be fair with each other. I will accept it. And then the Quran tells us, and they, the women, have rights similar to those of men over them in a just manner. Now, one of the problems I raised for single mothers. We have millions of single mothers in this country. Some of them have been divorced. And according to the New Testament values, she cannot be remarried. If she is remarried, she is an adulteress. And the one who marries her is an adulterer, according to the New Testament. Islam tells us polygamy. If you are married already, and there are millions of women with children, not having fathers, not having husbands, you can marry them and take care of them, cater for them. You can pay for the children's education. You can pay for the expenses of that woman. This is the solution that Islam provides for a society which is in tatters. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me. I would like Alan to come back, even in the question and answer session, to address my premises, which he hasn't done so far. Thank you very much for listening. Wa akhiru da'wana, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Start to engage with the inner dispositions of Adnan, Rashid and Craig. And the way you're going to do that, as we said before in the beginning, was to ask questions. And the way you can ask questions is by going towards my left, which is your right, next to Doug. Yep, I remember his name, Doug. And to give your question, which shouldn't be longer than 30 seconds. If you address it to a specific speaker, the specific speaker would only have 2 minutes to answer, and the opposing speaker, if he decides to, has 1 minute to rebut the answer to that question. You never know, they may agree. So, I'm going to first read out a question that was given by a lady who had to go. She was running late for probably an important family commitment. And I'm going to send it back to her because she's giving me her address, which I can't give you her address without the data protection act. Okay. It's not a very good joke. This is what you could laugh at me, that's not better. Okay, the lady said, actually, did she give her name? Yes, Joan Waitsman. She said during the debate, there was much challenge and questioning of each other, both sides of the debate, and they were only addressed by men of the respective faiths. I noticed no Muslim women were present. Do both men agree, so it's addressed to both, do both men agree that, and I assume she's referring to the absence of Muslim women here, that causes social breakdown, and that needs to be debated before we seek solutions? Who wants to take this one first? Mr. Rashid?
Thank you very much, Hamza. The lady is not here for me to thank her. Thank you to her. I agree with her that there are no Muslim ladies present today. I cannot see one. The reason is because the debate was decided very late. We came to terms very late. We were given a week to advertise, and we had no time to advertise this debate. Usually, if you go to other debates, you find Muslim women there. Some of them are veiled, some of them not, some of them are in hijab. They engage the speakers. I'm sure Alan has been to debates before where Muslim women were present, posing questions to the Christian speakers or atheistic speakers. Yesterday we had a debate in UCL which was advertised for a long time by Hamza and Hamza's organization. And we had almost more than half the attendants were ladies, and most of them were Muslims. We had this debate yesterday in UCL, and this debate was against an atheistic professor, and it was a very successful debate. Unfortunately, we didn't have that time to advertise, and that's why not many people got to know about this debate. That's why we don't have many people from either side in this debate. So that's the response. So I agree that this promotes social background, social breakdown. We should avoid preventing people from coming to debates. Rather, we should encourage women from both faiths to come forward and engage in debating and dialoguing, so that they can be educated and they can have better understanding of both religions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adnan. Alan, you can start that.
I'm sure Adam, I respect his reasoning as to why there are no Muslim women here, but he's dancing around the issue. We all know that Islam has a problem with women. I live midpoint between two mosques in Forest Gate. On a Friday, indeed not just on a Friday, they're very busy mosques, but all I ever see going in and out of them are men. Actually, one of them does have a women's part of the mosque, which is around the back. That's all I ever see. Islam has a problem with women. I went to a conference yesterday on preventing violent extremism. There was a woman, a Muslim woman from the Home Office who was there. And she was saying, this is, I think, something really quite encouraging for us all, Muslims and non-Muslims as well. She said that actually Islam, because it's so vested in the 7th century Arabia and the culture and the norms and the mores of that sort of society, it's stuck on its attitude toward women. However, here in Europe, Muslim women are more and more getting their voice. This is a Muslim woman speaking, working very kind over in the Home Office are doing that. And she's encouraging, she's saying actually a European form and a British form of Islam is developing, in which actually it's being led by women. Women are free in our culture, in our society over here, to express themselves, and that includes Muslim women. And more they're becoming professional, they're getting out there expressing themselves, and they are changing Islam within Britain. So we're seeing developing a British form and a European form of Islam. I think that's quite encouraging, I have to say. And as soon as Islam gets over its problem with women are lovely, okay? They're lovely, guys, okay? They're lovely. And I think we can acknowledge that. They're given to men by God, and actually men are given to women by God. That's how God does things, with a loving God. So don't worry about it, it's changing, and I have that from a Muslim woman in the Home Office.
The gentleman on my left with the red top, can you please approach the microphone?
Thank you, Adnan, for highlighting the problem in the society of a huge number of rape. My question is that how does, according to Islam, what is the solution if a woman is raped? Is that right that she's supposed to provide 4 witnesses? If she fails, what happens to her?
That's a very good question. We have a mechanism called ijtihad. Islam provides a comprehensive solution for every problem in the society, be it economic, social, or moral, or legal. Islam gives a structured solution for all of them. Now, every single Islamic model supports the other. Okay? So, moral model of Islam, which is to do with morality in Islam, supports the social model. And so, social model of Islam, which is to do with social laws, supports the economic model. The economic model of Islamic law, which is to do with taxation, revenue, all of this, it supports the legal model, how Islamic law is implemented in a society. So it's a big structure of Islamic law, which is very comprehensive, and it deals with every single piece of information in a society, or piece of issue, or any issue to do with the society. Islam has a solution for that. Coming to the rape issue. Rape issue has been raised many times as a problem. We have an issue of ijtihad. Now, in the 7th century Arabia, we had no access to DNA technology. We had no access to that. Today, if a woman claims to have been raped by a man, she can simply produce DNA evidence, and then she can turn around and say, okay, this man raped me, and the man can get done. But there's a problem with that. There's another problem. What if a girlfriend or a wife, she willingly has intercourse with her husband or boyfriend, and then she goes to the police after having an argument, says, my husband or my boyfriend raped me. Do you know what the British law does to him? Without taking his testimony into account, he is gone down for years. For this reason, we must understand that Islamic law gives a comprehensive solution. It protects the man and the woman. This is why a woman can't simply stand up and say, this man raped me, and look, there is DNA evidence on me. And there may be DNA evidence there, but that man may be a boyfriend. The woman may have slept with him willingly. That man may be a husband, and he can be mistreated in this regard. So Islam gives a comprehensive, you must provide 4 witnesses in order to establish whether there was a rape taking place or not.
Thank you, Adnan, Rashid. Do you want to respond? You have a minute to respond if you wish? No. Okay. Any more questions from the floor? The gentleman with the lovely pink tie.
The question actually addressed to both speakers. We've talked about Islam and Christianity as if they're the only 2 alternatives. Of course, there are other moral systems in the world, and I've asked both speakers to consider the Chinese system of Confucianism. He was a great teacher who lived 2,500 years ago. He placed great emphasis on family values, learning, basically the reciprocal obligation between people. Now, this has stood the Chinese for 25 centuries. They produce now the most dynamic economy in the world. They're certainly the country which is up and coming. And of course, they eat pork as well. So I'd like both speakers to consider that there may be alternatives both to Christianity and to Islam, and to look outside the box, as it were, to a doctrine evolved not from an ancient teacher. It's evolved over 25 centuries and produced one of the most successful societies that the world has yet seen.
Thank you. Basically, addressed to both speakers, you have 2 minutes each, because addressed to both of you in regards to basically, for those who are here thinking outside the box, other moral systems. I don't know what pork have to do with it. Okay, who wants to go first? No? Okay, Adnan? Oh, you go first.
Yes, absolutely right. I mean, Chinese society is historically based on Confucianism. It's a thriving, it's the coming world power. As it's thrown off the shackles of the rules or regulations of bureaucracy of communism or Maoism or whatever. As it's doing that, so it is beginning to thrive, so it can come through. Similarly, look at India. Predominantly India, is actually becoming a world power as well. I mean, it's taken 60 years to do so. And there are all sorts of models out there which are certainly we can learn from and may be appropriate. I'm not arguing, we're talking about British society here. I don't happen to think that Confucianism would be appropriate, not that I know a lot about it, and then you could reasonably say, well, actually, Alan, you ought to look at it from Britain as well. Fair dues. I'm happy to. As a Christian, I'm very happy to engage and learn from the Arsenal dialogues as well. Sorry?
Also, atheist Confucianism. I've no technique that's very God, get on with his job and look up the family.
I like reading some of the atheists, and I look at some of the atheists which are dominating our airwaves these days, and some of the stuff they say is very good. I look at people like Johann Hari, some of you may know. I mean, his view of Christianity is absolutely abysmal. He referred to Jesus as a charlatan the other day, and that's what he does. But he has some very good points about free speech, about liberty, and freedom of conscience, and so on. It's just down the road here just off Brick Lane. It's very articulate, very well written, absolutely clear, crystal clear atheist, with very good reviews, increasingly good reviews about Islam, just to level it up. I've seen him write some pretty rude stuff about Muhammad, but he traditionally has always been on about Christianity, because Britain predominantly has been predominantly a Christian society. So yeah, I'm absolutely up for learning whatever anybody else do it and does it. I do think one of the problems of it, I have to say this, as with communism, these rules. Oh, come back later.
Yes, thank you very much for raising that point. I will look into that. If I find it to be better than Islam, I will embrace it by all means. If I don't, I will not even think of embracing it. Islam, I believe, has more comprehensive solutions. We have been discussing many issues here, and we have seen so far that Alan hasn't come up with a structured solution for us as a society, let alone the British society. I'm still waiting for any solutions to come for rape, for crime, for single mothers, and I have given you solutions from Islam. Now, Islam, the reason why I choose Islam is that Islam gives a solution for every single problem in the society. And every single problem we have in the society is somehow connected to the political system, which is governing us. So these political systems, if we look at them, all of them are acceptable for the Christians, because according to the model of Paul, where Paul says, obey the authorities, and then Jesus tells us in Gospel of Mark, chapter 12, verse number 17, that render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's. If a Caesar, or if the British Caesar turns out to be a caliph, would you render unto him what belongs to him? Alan, that's the question. If we have a Muslim Caesar, i.e. a caliph in Britain governing in 20 years from now, which is very unlikely, but if it happens, would you render unto Caesar what is Caesar's? Alan, according to the biblical teaching. And I would like to say something. I would like to ask Alan to say something about this. Thank you.
Unfortunately, your job is to answer the questions, not ask them. Okay. Any more from the floor? I will take the gentleman who did raise his hand first, with the skull cup and the white shirt. Abdullah.
Thank you, Hamza. And thanks to Adnan, Prof. Rhino, and also Anna Craig, lovely debating as well on a similar topic. For the debate I've been hearing today, it's very, very fascinating. But having some experience debating a lot of Christians, and here's a point I'd like to ask, is what Christianity are you coming from, Alan? It's because I've experienced learning Christianity. At first I thought it was, monolithic. It was all homogenous, all the same. All Christians, which I saw speakers calling, they were telling me about Christianity, I took it at face value. That's what all Christians agree on. And then I did some research. And then I realized that the antinomial faction, the faction of Christians that don't believe that you should follow a law, are actually a minority. The majority of Christian history has always been...
you have 10 seconds to give the question.
Following the law. So my question is, which Christianity are you coming from, and how can you justify your position from the Christian perspective that it is the most authentic one, when the majority of Christians, Catholics, Protestants, and so on, follow the law in this day?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I assume that is the lead right?
Abdullah, you came in late. I saw you creep in the back up there, and you came in late. You didn't hear my opening contribution, in which, in what I've in fact said, I define the debate tonight, at least from my point of view, as going back to Jesus in the New Testament. That cuts right way through all this thing. Yes, of course, there are all sorts of different factions of Christianity. Historically there have been, and today there still are. But hey, look at Islam too. No different, all sorts of different factions of Islam too, historically and today too. And actually Christianity, the different factions historically have fought themselves, amongst themselves. Catholics and Protestants have killed each other in the name of their own particular religion. But hey, Islam's still doing it today. Shias and Sunnis are really killing each other. That's what happens. So that's why I cut through all that lot and said over 2,000 years of Christian history and 14 years of Islamic history. Let's go back to the foundations. Let's go to the foundation of Jesus and Muhammad. Let's look at the New Testament, the Quran, Sharia law, and so on and so forth. That's why. And that's the way to look at it. Actually, what I want to know as a Christian is what would Jesus say about it? What did he teach about it? What do we get out of that? If I'm allowed to get into this one, because Adnan's challenged me a couple of times, but I can answer that one about that. This thing about rendering unto Caesar, and what would I do as a Christian if there's a caliph who is imposed on us here in Britain, or actually if the ruler? It's very simple. We have the ability, as Christians, we follow God, okay? Primarily our loyalty is to God and not to Prime Minister Gordon Brown or whoever happens to be in charge. Now, as part of that, I would generally go along with the rules, as a Christian I would go along with the rules and regulations, the laws that our secular society, the government, not the church, the government has provided for us. And I would go along with them. But if those laws are against God, I won't go along with them. And if a caliph comes along, and we have a caliph here, I have to say he will not be speaking God. And I will find myself in contradiction. And if he has the approach that I was talking about earlier, the approach, for instance, to women that I see in Islam, I won't go along with it. Okay? So I will find myself in contradiction. It's very simple. That's what the New Testament position is. We do follow it, provided it actually doesn't turn us against God. I believe the caliph here would turn me against God, and therefore I would not obey his laws necessarily.
Thank you, Adam. Do you give a minute? You have a minute now?
Said Shia Sunnis have been killing each other. Well, can you give me any examples of Shias burning Sunnis alive or Sunnis burning Shias alive? You will not find one example that that is a Christian phenomenon. Protestants burning Catholics and the Catholics burning the Protestants. This is a Christian phenomenon taken from the Old Testament model. I keep emphasizing this point that the Christians only had two options. Politically, Christians were left with two options. One was the Old Testament model propagated by Jesus in the book of Matthew. The other model was the Pauline model, which was to obey any ruler. Whoever comes to power, you are dead to the law. The Jewish law is no longer relevant for you. You obey your ruler, whoever that may be. So when the caliph comes to power, Alan must become a prime minister for that caliph and help him to implement the law of Sharia. And I will see Alan doing that. I would like to see him doing that. For this reason, we must come back to the problems. Again, I will emphasize that there are two options for the Christians. Number one is the Old Testament biblical model, which was attempted in the previous centuries by the Christians, and it failed. And post-Enlightenment thinkers, they abandoned it as barbaric. They condemned it. Now, when you condemn the rule of apostasy or harsh punishment in Islam, you are in fact condemning the Old Testament. If you're not, then...
Thank you, Adnan, Rashid. Any questions from the floor? There was the lady holding the pen.
This question is addressed to Adnan Rashid. The question I have, and you've mentioned it rather a lot during this evening, is about rape and crime. But what I would say to you is that if the Islamic or Sharia law, whatever the law is, that says that a woman has to have 4 witnesses in order for her to be believed that she is raped, wouldn't you say that this is actually giving a man a recipe for getting away with his rape? Because all he has to do is take a woman when she's completely alone and rape her. If there is nobody has seen that, then he will get away with it according to your law. It's a recipe for getting away with rape? Please answer my question.
Thank you very much for all this applause. Islam doesn't provide a recipe for rape, or Islam doesn't promote rape, or it doesn't encourage rape in any way. What you have to understand is that Islam gives a comprehensive model and a solution for every problem we have. Now, how does rape take place? First of all, you must understand this in its totality. Why do we have 46,000 rapes a year in this country? What is the cause? What is the reason? What is the reason? There must be a reason, right? 167 rapes every day. We do not have a Muslim country on the face of the earth with this kind of statistic. We don't. We do not have one. Now, if a woman is allowed to walk around at night alone, dressed in a miniskirt, in an area which is not known to be the safest area, she will very likely get raped. Likewise, Islam gives a solution to that. Now, this is a moral solution. Moral solution is the woman is not allowed to leave her house without her husband, her son, or unless it is for necessary. She has to go to the market, she has to go to a doctor, and she is to be protected by the members of her family, whether you like it or not. This is the solution Islam gives for the woman to be protected in a society where rape is very easily done. Now, why do we have, what do you propose? This is the Islamic solution. This is why we have so many less rapes taking place in Muslim countries, because women are free, they can go to universities, they can become scholars. We have women scholars today. We have women debating on behalf of Islam today. We have that phenomenon in Islamic countries. What we don't have is a woman walking around on the street at night, 12 o'clock at night, in an area where no one knows her. She's very likely to get raped. So Islam prevents that from happening. And if the rape takes place, then she must require for witnesses. She must explain why was she in that place alone or in the first place without a man from her family.
Thank you, Adnan. And then do you respond? Do you 1 minute? Or do you not respond? Okay. Any other questions on the floor? I just didn't see many hands up. I'm going to take everybody. We have at least 15 minutes for the question and answers there. So I'll take the gentleman on the far left, yes, with the glasses and the shorts and shirts.
One area of problems in modern Britain that Adnan did not address, I'd like him to address this, is that of asylum seekers, which is a big issue. And more specifically, the problem of asylum seekers who come from Muslim countries, who are Christian converts from Islam and have fled those countries because they face being executed because of Islamic law on apostasy. What is the Islamic solution for Britain in the modern day, dealing with asylum seekers who are converts from Islam and have fled because they're going to be killed by the state?
Okay, thank you for that question. My response to that is that how many asylum seekers are actually apostates from Islam? Even 0.1% of asylum seekers? Not even that. I am very sure of that. Because asylum seekers are coming from Africa, they're coming from Asia, they're coming from all over, they're coming from South America, the poor countries. So the general trend is that asylum seekers are coming to seek asylum because of the poverty in their countries. Not because they have apostated from Islam and they're coming to Britain to seek asylum. That is not the case. However, those who have done so, those who have left Islamic countries, for example, Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, well, I am not aware of any individual so far, there may be people who have done so. The law to do with apostasy in Islam is exactly like the biblical law. In Islam, apostasy is punished by death. And in the Bible, apostasy is punished by death. Now, do you condemn the Islamic law? Then you condemn the biblical law. For the Christian, if an atheist said to me, we condemn this law, I could understand. On what basis does a Christian come to me and say to me, I condemn this law, when in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse number 16, Paul is telling you all scripture is good for correctness, is good for righteousness, and is good for education. If that's the case, you have the law of apostasy in the Old Testament. So the Christians have no legs to stand on in this regard. But we don't have many apostates in Islamic countries. If you would say that we have thousands, that wouldn't be true. I wouldn't agree with you. Maybe 1, 2, 3 cases once a year. They are insignificant. You can have people psychologically disturbed. You can have all kinds of people apostolating from Islam for different reasons. You can have people in Africa likewise, Red Cross, they go and they feed the starving people. There are thousands of people starving to death in Africa. And when the Red Cross go to them and tell them, we brought Jesus to you and we'll give you food with this Jesus, those people will embrace Jesus. I don't blame them for doing that. So there can be many reasons for apostasy. It's not because they hate Islam, it's because of the circumstances. Thank you.
Can you respond to that?
Yeah, sure.
About 9 months ago, in my front room sat a woman. She was brought up, Pakistani parents. She's second generation, born and raised in Newham, went to school in Newham, born in Britain. Of her own volition, she had converted to Christianity. Hadn't been to church, but she'd read tracts which she'd read on the underground, and she converted to Christianity. Her parents, and she lived in East Ham, just down the road here. Her parents are absolutely ghastly. To cut a long story short, they came in a situation at the end of last year, so we're talking about 2008, in Britain today, when her father, she was living at home, her father called in the local imam from his mosque in East Ham. So a pillar of the East Ham community came into their front room. They sat there, this obviously her story, they sat there. The imam and her father went on and on about America and Britain and Israel. She sat there with a Bible on her knee, wanted to talk about Jesus. In the end, the imam said, you're clearly not coming back to Islam. You know the solution to this, don't you? She pushed him into it. The solution is, you should be executed. At that, her father, this is in East Ham, just down the road, here. At that, her father just shook his head. That's too much, even by her father. This is what's going on in England in 2000, well, this is 2008, not 2009. It's going on. It happened, she sat there in my front room 9 months ago. This is what's happening. That is what Islam is going to offer. Now, you can say that they're pretty, I will hand over to Adnan.
Sorry, I have to be fair on both sides of the questions. I am going to take the gentleman with the purple shirt, if that's okay. By the way, this is a little clue. I judge it if he's smiling at me. Pardon. He had a big smile, so it wasn't
This classic child. It's essentially a simple question. Is Sharia law need a state structure? Now, is a state structure compatible with democracy? And if Sharia law were to be implemented, would not a democratic activist itself be seen as apostasy, treachery of sedition, and therefore worthy of death, execution under the Constitution of the Crown? Essentially, Sharia law and democracy, are they permanently compatible? And can Sharia law allow for that system of law to be replaced by another system of law founded on other principles, be they Christian or whatever? Or does it need an autocratic, politically monocultural state in perpetuity?
Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for asking that question. Coming back to the question of rape, quickly to address one point. If a man is raped by a woman, which is a possibility, even him, he has to provide 4 witnesses. Okay? So that's fair. So women and men are equal in that regard in Islam. If a man is captured by 4 women and they all rape him, then he has to provide 4 witnesses for him, his rape as well. So this is the fairness in Islam. Coming back to your point, the Sharia law, I prefer the Sharia law model because it turns out to be better than the democratic model which we have in this country at the moment. In this country, in this democratic model, we have 46,000 rapes taking place right now under our noses. We have 2.1 million violent crimes recorded right now under our noses. We have millions of single mothers. We have millions of children abused. We have cases like Baby P. We have cases like Jessica and Oliver. We have cases like, and I can go on and on. In a Sharia model, Muslims are allowed to implement their own law on themselves. The Christians are allowed to implement their own law on themselves. And the Jews are allowed to have their own Beth Din, governing their own communities with their own laws. which we don't have in this country at the moment. What more freedom can you expect from a state? Today we are having controversies about Sharia law, Sharia courts in Britain, and there's a big fuss about that. Well, the Islamic model is better than that, isn't it? Because Islamic model provides absolute judicial autonomy for the Christians and the Jews. Does the present British model provide that for Muslims? No. We're not even allowed to govern our cases properly. Only cases with which we are allowed to govern are the civil cases, divorce, marriage, inheritance. What about the criminal cases? No. And we have historical precedences. In Islamic Spain, the Jews have autonomy. In Ottoman Empire, in 16th century Ottoman Jerusalem, there were 1,000 cases recorded where the Jews left their own court and they came to the Islamic court for justice. Why? And Adnan Cohen, in his work, is a Jewish scholar who studied the sigil records of Jerusalem, the legal records. He came to realize that from year 1536 to 1600, in these 70 years, there were 1,000 Jewish cases filed in the Sharia courts. Why? Thank you very much.
I forgot to make one more announcement, so just before you start that, there is some free literature at the back, both Islamic and Christian. After the debate, you are free to pick and choose, take both of them. Ali, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, there's a lot wrong with Britain. And in many ways it's a declining society, it's an aged society, it's a weary society, it's lacking vitality, it's lacking progressiveness and so on and so forth. But it ain't too bad. And I have to say, when you look at Britain, if you have to move to now just do comparison, if you look at Britain with this, what is it Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst possible form of government until you look at all the rest. And that's probably just about right. And we're quite good at muddling through here. Yes, the rate figures are awful, the way we bring up our children is very bad, and so on and so forth. But I have to say, if I go to the land of the two holy cities, if I go to Saudi Arabia, no thank you, especially if I'm a woman. I can think of nothing that's good in Saudi Arabia at all. The centre, the epicentre of Islam, with Mecca and Medina there, I can think of nothing. What has actually Saudi Arabia got to offer the world? Not one thing apart from oil. Where did the oil come from? Not from Saudi, it came from God. It's got nothing else to offer. It isn't even a society. It depends on that one thing. So actually, yes, we all can criticize Britain. And there are lots of things wrong. I'd like to see it improve. Primarily, I'd like to see it move back to a Christian basis, Christian values. We've talked about that before. But actually, I have to say, Islam doesn't offer much to Britain on this.
Questions from the floor? The lady with the white jumper?
The yob on my left would not want to turn the other cheek for the yob on my right because they don't know Jesus. So I don't really know how Christianity can be imposed on people who don't want Jesus. However, having said that, I thank Jesus for saving me because he's taken me off the streets so that I'm not a pain to society, neither to my parents and neither to the police. I come from Malaysia, and in Malaysia I know that there is, unfortunately, an underground Malay church. These are Malay who are Muslims and converted to Christianity, and they cannot meet in public because of persecution. This is happening.
So you have 10 seconds to give it
10 seconds, yeah, okay. And but the courts, there is a lady who wanted the change of her religion from being a Muslim to become a Christian, and the democratic court said she has to go to the Sharia court, and therefore they're saying that the Sharia court is... The question is, there is a statement in the Quran that says that there is no compulsion in religion. So what is it, this business about killing apostates or death to them?
Thank you. Very good question. Thank you very much for that question. Briefly, very quickly to address Alan's point, it ain't too bad. Okay? 46,000 rapes a year, it ain't too bad. So, okay. And then Alan is willing to pick up on apostasy, which doesn't even take place. Not even 0.1% in any society. This is a problem. It's not. The problems ain't too bad. 2.1 million violent crimes recorded, it ain't too bad. Alan, you need to take some political lessons from me. Saudi Arabian women. Saudi women are some of the most prosperous women on the face of the earth. Did you know that, ladies and gentlemen? They have the largest shopping centers to shop around in. Any one of you, you are absolutely allowed to go to Jeddah, you're absolutely allowed to go to Riyadh and Yamama, all these cities. The only two places you are not allowed because you're non-Muslim are Mecca and Medina. If you go to Jeddah, you will find the most magnificent shopping centers there, and the most of the people who will be shopping there are women. Some of the Saudi women, they live in palaces. They live in palaces. And I, as a Muslim, I believe that they shouldn't live in so much extravagance. I say that. So that point is not well taken, Alan. Coming back to your point, compulsion in religion, you're right, 256, Surah 2, verse number 256, there is no compulsion in religion. By the way, this verse was revealed about the Jews and the Christians. When Prophet Muhammad came to Medina, there were people of Medina who had left their children with Jews to be grown up as Jews. Because Jews were educated, so people would leave the children with them to be educated. Now, when these people became Muslims in Medina, they wanted to force their children into Islam. These Muslims, new Muslims, they wanted to force their children into Islam, and then this verse was revealed to Muhammad. There is no compulsion in religion. This verse is not for the Muslims, this verse is for the Jews and the Christians. They are not to be compelled to embrace Islam in any circumstances whatsoever. Thank you. Can you respond to that?
In the first 100 years of Islam, the first 300, it's fair to compare the growth of the expansion of the gospel in the first 300 years territorially took over roughly about the same space that Islam, territory that Islam took over in the first 100 years. Christianity spread therefore about a third of the pace of Islam, roughly, something like that. The difference is that Christianity was never imposed anywhere. Christianity was always in those first 300 years, until we got to Constantine and all that from that, was always by the preaching of the word, was always by signs and miracles, was always by the Holy Spirit leading forward. It was slower. But it was slower than armies, it was slower than the sword. If you look at what the Islamic armies did, they went at lightning speed. Probably only compared with Alexander the Great in the whole of history as to how fast they expanded. But it was always by the sword. They didn't always use a sword. They didn't need the sword to get into Jerusalem. It was the sheer intimidation and the sheer force of it. And right the way across North Africa and over into Spain, it was the sword. It was the sword that did it, either by fact or by intimidation. It's true they didn't force conversion. But they insisted on taking over the governments in those areas, making them Islamic states.
I'm going to take the final question, and then we're going to go to the final remarks. And there's the guy in the blue shirt, did you say his name? You were pointing at Jay? Jay's not going to get chosen now. He's part of that demonstration team. The gentleman over the back, standing.
Good evening. Just want to ask about judgment, and especially about Sharia law. There was a case in Iran where the wife cheated with her husband, and her locals beat her up by stones. So I just want to ask you, especially who represent Islam, who give you the right to judge this way? Because in church, the strongest punishment she might get is just be restricted from the church, or in some churches she just can confess her sins and ask God for forgiveness. But according to Sharia law, you have to kill the person for that. So I think it's unfair. Iran.
For adultery.
Sorry?
Yes,
cheating for them.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for that question. Quickly, very quickly, again to Alan's point, first 300 years of Christianity. First 300 years of Christianity were the years of persecution, confusion, and no dogmatic unanimity among the Christians. Christians were not even united, they didn't even know what they believe in. It was the Council of Nicaea 325 CE where the Creed of Nicaea was established. Prior to that, the Christians had so many schools among themselves, how can they even come together and govern? So what happened when they came to power? Post 325 CE. Adnan made a claim that Christianity was never imposed. I invited to go and study the Theodosian Code, which was decreed in 381 CE, where Emperor Theodosius, a Christian emperor, who said, anyone, and I quote, Book 16, chapter number 2, article number 5, anyone who disagrees with the established Catholic Church, and even in a minor issue, will be treated as a heretic. And how were the heretics treated? I again invite you to read the Theodosian Code. So don't make these rhetorical claims that Christianity was never imposed. It's always love, love, love. No, that's not the case, Adam. Christianity was abandoned because of its severe nature when it comes to imposition on others. This is why Enlightenment thinkers, they had enough of Christianity. Locke, people like Albert Gibbon, and these Enlightenment writers, Newton had to write in secret. Why? Why? So these are the questions you must address. Christianity has always been about imposition, and you accuse us of your own crimes. The history of Islam has always been portrayed as the history of Christianity, as the history of Christianity was in reality. So I invite you to read history. Fast expansion, that's not the issue altogether. I need to address the question of that.
Yeah, give you a minute. Sorry. You want to respond to that? You have a minute. Okay. I'm going to take one more question. There was a lady who had it for a very long time. The lady in the glasses at the back. That's why I'm just using my liberty to basically extend the time slightly just for the lady's question. Because she had it for a very long time. I think from the beginning almost. So, and this is the last question, and we're going to do the 5-minute closing statements.
My question is really for Adnan, concerning rape again. Firstly, your use of statistics and also how you define rape and what situations you seem to define happens. So you talked about girls in miniskirts walking around areas that they don't know without any male companionship, brothers, relatives. But I mean, what about women who get raped by their male relatives? And I personally know many stories of this happening within Muslim families in Muslim countries. And also, these statistics you keep quoting, I mean, that assumes that women report rape, that there's the same percentage of women who report rape in Muslim countries as in Britain. And I simply don't believe that that is the case. I mean, you're completely ignoring hidden statistics in the way that you presented your material.
10 seconds for your
I'm done, thank you. So, just that Adnan, I don't think you're being very fair in how you're presenting statistics and comparing Britain and Muslim countries, and that Britain has a much, in your words, higher rate of rape, and also how you present the situation of rape, which I don't think is very accurate and doesn't really...
Okay, so you want him to clarify?
Yeah.
Okay.
First of all, to clarify that gentleman's question, the case of Iran, in Islam, in the entire history of Islam, you will not find more than 10 cases, or maybe 15 cases documented when it comes to stoning to death. Because the burden of proof is so high. 4 men must tell the judge what they saw, and they must testify that they saw the man penetrating the woman. And this is, you must be doing it in public, in other words. So it doesn't usually take place. It's a deterrent more than punishment. Coming to the issue of, what was the issue, sorry? Statistics. Okay, statistics. First of all, I still stand by what I said, that statistics in Islamic countries are much lower than the British or American statistics when it comes to rape. And I already told you, Daily Mail reported that very recently, 2 days ago, that 40% of the rape cases are not even reported. They're not even documented by the police. So imagine if we had those documented, 40%. That's a lot of number. When it comes to statistics from Islamic countries as they stand today now, I wouldn't accept them as Islamic countries anyway because they don't govern with Islamic law in the first place. They're governing with the British law, French law, American law. If you go to any Islamic country on the face of the earth today, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or North Africa, all those countries are governing with French, British and American law. They don't have the Sharia law and the Sharia model implemented. So whatever they have in terms of crime statistics is caused by the model they have implemented. If they had the Islamic model implemented, I can assure you that there would be half as much rapes taking place as there are today. Thank you very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. For those who did raise their hands but didn't have enough, we didn't have enough time to select the questions. I assume that many in the audience who on the platform here today will be engaging in further debate and dialogue, which is a good thing, and you probably will be able to get your questions addressed at that time. Now is the time to summarize, because Councillor Alan Craig went first. I'm going to ask Adnan to go first with the summary of his presentation, and he has approximately... Oh, sorry, is that how it works? I do apologize. Okay, I'm sorry. I have been gutted, and I'm not even debating today. That's probably my first joke, but we were laughing. So, Alan, will you go 5 minutes? Thank you.
Yes, it's been a very good evening, and I've really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed listening to Adnan and the points that he's making. I think as I've listened, I have to say I'm more and more persuaded in my own case without listening to myself, but listening to him as he does it. Have you heard, as you listen to him, do you begin to understand what Islam is really about? This woodenness, this mechanicalness, these rules and regulations and laws and what you've got to do and how many rapes and how many statistics. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what Islam has to offer. And because it has to offer, I just want to give you 2 examples of why it is. What you hear in Adnan is what you hear in Islamic societies. Okay? The total Muslim population is approximately 1.3 billion, or 20% of the world's population. Yet Muslims have received just 7 Nobel Prizes during that award's 100-year history. 20% of the world population have received just 7 Nobel Prizes during the award's 100-year history. 4 for peace, 2 for medicine, 1 for literature, none for physics, economics or chemistry. The total Jewish population is around 14 million, or just 0.2% of the world population. They have received 129 Nobel Prizes over the same period, including 53 for physics, 43 for medicine, and 8 for peace. You see, what Islam offers is rules and regulations. It is all wooden, it is all mechanical. Where's the creativity? Where's the innovation? Where's the vitality that every society needs? Ladies and gentlemen, let's not just hold up Christianity. Let's just look at the South Asian subcontinent. Let's look at Pakistan, India and Bangladesh, all made independent of Britain at the same time, 1947. All given the right state opportunity, all under the same background and so on. 2 of them Islamic, Bangladesh and Pakistan. 1 of them predominantly Hindu. 1 of them is thriving, growing, with all sorts of problems, and is about to become a world power, striding the world stage. 2 others are failed states, virtually one way or the other. Why is that, ladies and gentlemen? It's because of what you hear in Adnan. It's because of the sort of thing that he's putting into the culture is this mindset that Islam offers to you. It is all rules and regulations. Don't keep your eyes down there. Make sure you're doing exactly what the rules and regulations, because Allah tells you to do, that's what you ought to do. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not how you build a society. A society needs creativity. It needs imagination. It needs innovation. It needs risk-taking. It needs to be able to make mistakes. Now, Britain's problem at the moment, let's not worry too much. They're horrendous, but I'm not going to address myself to problems of domestic violence and rape, although I acknowledge they're horrendous and do that. But actually Britain's problems is we've lost that vitality. And we're becoming a nanny state. It's all rules and regulations again, but they're man-made rules and regulations. They're all what the government, the bureaucratic rules and regulations. Why? Because we've lost our Christianity. That's why. The solution to our society here is Christ. Our solution is those Christian kingdom values those Christian kingdom principles. And when that vitality comes back in, if we turn again as a society to that, the vitality comes back in. The care and compassion comes back in. People's behaviour and therefore the culture begins to change. And that is what is missing from Britain at the moment. Please don't let's go down this thing of having more rules and regulations. We've got enough from our secular society at the moment. All the bureaucracy, all the rules and regulations they're trying to stick on us at the moment. We don't need Sharia law coming in and adding to it and saying it's all all comes from God or comes from Allah. No, no. What we need is a solution. There is only one solution. With due respect to Confucianism and Hinduism, they may or may not be appropriate to Canada, to China or to India. I'm talking about Britain today. There is only one solution for us, and that lies in Jesus Christ. He will bring it, and if society turns to him, therefore we will revitalise our society. We'll become a more respectful society. We'll begin to look after our children more. We'll begin to actually honour and respect our women more. But as our society becomes more and more secular, more and more corroded by the acid of secularisation and atheism, as that happens, we'll become more selfish, become more materialistic, become more greedy, and our society will go down the swanny. I don't know what Britain has in the future. Maybe we will disappear and become a little island of Europe. But we do have one thing offered to us. And if we will turn to the society, and it lies in Jesus, if we will turn to him as a society, then we will once again become a vibrant and growing and dynamic society. But let's not turn to laws and regulations. Listen to Adnan, listen to the atmosphere behind what he's saying to you. It's all down here. We have the solution. It's all laws. That's not the way forward. So Britain, if you'll wake up now, listen to me, it lies in Jesus. Thank you very much.
Rashid, you have 5 minutes. Thank you very much for reminding me of that. Ladies and gentlemen, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah ma ba'd. Thank you very much, Alan, for that passionate preaching. Preaching doesn't give us solutions. Again, I will remind you of the topic again. Last 5 minutes, you've lost your opportunity to give us any solutions. The topic is Islam or Christianity, which one provides comprehensive solutions for the British society? I've already documented some of the problems. I've already stated some of the problems which are from the British society: rapes, murders, victimization of women, domestic violence. Alan has not produced one solution so far from the Christian religion. The solution which Alan has to offer is Christ. Well, Christ, how? We need to know, how does Christ solve our problem of rape? We need to know how Christ would punish the rapist or the murderer. How would Christ deal with the problem of high taxation? How would Christ deal with the problem of single mothers? How would Christ deal with the problems of atheism? The model you have, the Christian model, which, when the atheists read the Bible, they don't know Christianity, because it's all confusion. It's all confusion. The doctrine of Trinity, the reason why people are becoming atheists is because the doctrine of Trinity doesn't make sense. How can be God, one God being three? It's impossible. They know, they're intelligent, they know it is not possible for a God to be three. Three persons, one homoousios, one hypostasis, but three persons manifested in one essence. Doesn't make sense. Islam gives a comprehensive solution for you morally, ethically, legally, socially, economically, and all of this is intermingled. One structure supports the other. You have moral regulations. You are not to stare at women who don't belong to you, not your wives, because they don't belong to you. If you will break that rule, you will end up possibly putting your hand on them. In this society where you have pornography, problems of pornography, people, and we know from academic research today that pornography is directly linked to rape. When people watch pornography, they are aroused and they want to take their feelings out on someone. They go and rape someone. There's a high risk involved in this. How does Christianity solve this problem? Islam comes in, the moral laws of Islam come in, and they ban pornography. Pornography is not allowed because it corrupts people. Okay, what happens if someone still goes ahead and rapes someone? Then Islamic, suitably harsh punishments come in, and then people are prevented that way. So then economically, Islam has a solution where Commonwealth is established, Baytul Mal, where people can be supported from. Poor mothers, they can be given money from this place. Children can be given housing benefit and child benefit. Then people, their education is free of charge. These are Islamic solutions which Christianity doesn't have. And this is why Adnan has actually summed up my case pretty well for me. Thank you very much, Adnan. Because Alan actually said that Christianity is not about rules, Islam is about rules. And ladies and gentlemen, guess what? Comprehensive solutions come from rules. Comprehensive solutions come from rules. If we didn't have law in this country in Britain to prevent us from committing crimes, this place would have been a jungle. It is almost there already, by the way. Yes? But guess what? If we didn't have these rules to prevent us from raping, from killing, from stealing, from defrauding someone, we would have been, all of us, most of us would have been criminals. Because there is no law in place, and Alan is talking about that lawlessness. I am not. I am saying Islam gives that solution. Alan said in his presentation that Islam has a problem with women. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that assertion, because that is not true. When we look at the Islamic text, we come to realize that Islam, in fact, honors women in a way which even the men sometimes feel they envy women in this regard. Prophet Muhammad said, paradise lays underneath the feet of your mother. So if you need to seek paradise, if you want to attain paradise, go and serve your mother. Prophet didn't say that about the father. He was asked, what about the father? He said, no. 3 times he said, mother, mother, mother. In the 4th time, he said, father. So this is how much he honored woman. Then, in one of the hadiths of Sahih Muslim, a believing man must not hate a believing woman. If he dislikes one of her traits, he will be pleased with another. Sahih Muslim. Then in Tirmidhi, Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said, the believers who show the most perfect faith are those who have the best character, and the best of you are those who are best to their wives. Then, we go to the book of Tirmidhi. The best of you is he who is best to his family, and I am the best among you to my family. Abdullah bin Abbas narrated that the Prophet said that if anyone has a female child and does not bury her alive, or slight her, or belittle her against the male child, he will be in paradise if he like this. Then Abu Sa'id al-Khudri narrated in the book of Abu Dawud that if anyone cares for 3 daughters, disciplines them, marries them off, and does good by them, he will enter paradise. So Islam doesn't have a problem with women. Ladies and gentlemen, I have substantiated my case. Thank you very much.
I have been reminded for everyone to take their cups and to take them to the room where they got them in the first place. I think this is the official close for the debate. I would like to thank Adnan, Rashid for participating in this positive and having debate, and Councillor Alan Craig. I think we should all give them another round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good evening.